We'll get to the Republican takeover of the House and DOJ naming a special counsel in the Trump investigation in just a couple of minutes. The media divide over the former president's announcement speech could not be deeper. Joining us now to analyze the coverage, Ben Domenech, editor-at-large for The Spectator. And in Los Angeles, Leslie Marshall, the radio talk show host, both are Fox News contributors. Ben, you've made clear that you favor Ron DeSantis and think he can beat Trump. Look, Donald Trump's been getting hostile coverage from the media for 7 years. I've never seen anything like this. Most major outlets personally savaging him for having the temerity to run.
Well, I actually was pleasantly surprised by that speech for a number of reasons, because I thought it was more subdued, more serious than we normally get out of Donald Trump. Certainly, it was something that seemed very much taking the job seriously and laying out, I think, the case that he'll make to the American people. I didn't see anything from that speech to inspire the kind of hatred that it got in the media. And I understand that certain people, they don't want him to run, but this is an incredibly important, historical event, and just in terms of seeing a former president trying to retake his job, and the kind of coverage that it received, I think, spoke more to the ideology involved and to the resentments people have toward him than toward what was actually there on the screen.
Leslie, there was plenty to pick apart in this speech, saying he left the economy in fabulous shape when actually it had been flattened by the pandemic. But if it was so boring that MSNBC ignored it, why did its people and everybody else spend the next days talking about it and ripping Trump's candidacy?
Well, first, it's not usual, but Ben, this is happening more and more. I agree with Ben on two things. I do think DeSantis would beat Trump. And two, I do think that they should have aired this because it is news. There's only twice before in the history of presidencies in our nation where presidents have done this. One, two, you can cut away. And three, Howie, to your point, if it's about ratings, well, that was obviously a poor choice. And for you to rip it, that's fine, but you have no point of reference for your viewers in that ripping. I do think, though, that there are some people out there, certainly on my side of the aisle, that feel that when Donald Trump is on television or wherever Donald Trump is, that those are the types of things that led up to further division, as we've seen and we are at in our nation, and led up to January 6th. So once bitten, twice shy. All
right, we're starting off on a rare moment of agreement here. Let me just read from Washington Post as an example. Headline: Trump, who as president fomented an insurrection, says he is running again. Lead paragraph: Donald Trump, the twice impeached former president who refused to concede defeat and inspired a failed attempt to overturn the 2020 election culminating in a deadly attack on the U.S. Capitol, officially declared. Ben, not even any pretense of fairness.
Well, I don't think that's, that kind of coverage is only going to help Donald Trump become the kind of sympathetic figure that he likes to play when it comes to these things in the way that he has this relationship with the media. But one thing to keep in mind here is, last time around in 2016, you saw the media really, fawning over Trump, playing all of his speeches, all of his rallies, and the like, leaning into that. And so, to a certain extent, I feel like this is an overcorrection. This is kind of them saying, we screwed up last time. We thought that he could never win, so we did this whole game where we put him on TV all the time because we thought we could, make a play for ratings, but not have to be worried that he would ever beat Hillary Clinton. Because they made that mistake last time around, I think this time around they may adopt a different approach to coverage, using January 6th as the excuse for the reason why.
Leslie, look, he's the former president of the United States who got 73 million votes last time. And yes, he has lost support because of his relentless focus on the stolen election and because his MAGA candidates basically handed control of the Senate to the Democrats. But are the media, based on these examples that I'm reciting here, going to cover Trump as if they were the opposition party?
Stop Ben taking my talking points, because I would say some of what Ben said I agree with. One of the things that I found prior, being a journalist prior in my career to being what I am now, a Democratic strategist, political analyst, talk host, where I opine, is you need to report the facts. And one of the facts that we have out there is that Donald Trump lies. He's lied about a stolen election. He lied about the economic numbers in this speech, as you pointed out, rightly so. So, to me, you got to run the announcement. Don't run the rallies. if I were a programming director at networks, I would say don't run the rallies, because if you're going to do that, you got to do that for every single candidate, and basically that's to me that's feeding the beast. No network should be there to help elect or to prevent the election.
Reporting the facts is a very good guiding standard, and we should all think about that. Okay, so I want to get to this other topic, which is Merrick Garland announcing that he has named a special counsel to run the day-to-day probe of Donald Trump, the existing investigations. He's named Jack Smith, who is a former head of the Justice Department's Public Integrity Unit, currently prosecuting war crimes in The Hague. And Donald Trump responded by saying this.
The corrupt and highly political Justice Department just appointed a super radical left special counsel, better referred to as a special prosecutor, to start the process all over again. We thought it was just about dead. This is a rigged deal, just as the 2020 election was rigged.
So he's back to the rigged election. Look, the idea was to let a neutral person run this probe because Trump is a candidate, and as Garland said, Joe Biden is a likely candidate, although the AG will make the final call.
Look, I understand that you have to do this, I think, to have this appearance of independence, but I don't think that Republicans are going to buy it for a second. I think particularly the fact that Jack Smith also participated in the probe of Bob McDonnell that was thrown out by the Supreme Court is something that immediately people started talking about. And I think that, the president obviously is going to treat this as a hostile act against him. And we're going to have to see where it goes. We'll see how this plays out. But I wouldn't expect any Republicans to have confidence in this being an independent investigation.
Leslie, the reaction in the left-leaning media has ranged from, well, this is great because it shows that Merrick Garland must think he has a case to potentially prosecute against Donald Trump, to this is terrible because it's unnecessary and it will slow down the investigation.
And it's too late. A lot of people on my side are saying that this should have come earlier. A couple of things here. A lot of people, if we've seen in the midterms, have moved on from Donald Trump. And I think some of those people that have moved on are on the fence, might come back to Trump. And I had one person on Twitter say this the other day, actually, just because of this alone, because this feeds into his narrative of him being the victim and that everybody's out to get him, especially Democrats and, people in Democratic administrations. One. Two, I understand why they have to do this. Three, having a special counsel, as we saw with Durham and with Mueller, does not lead to people in handcuffs or people that you think or hope will be in handcuffs. And then lastly, we have to remember that this individual that has been appointed in 2010 was criticized because when he first started in this oversight position, he did not lay any indictments down on any members of Congress, and people thought he was extremely soft on that. So we'll see what happens going forward.
All right. I just love the fact that, first of all, his name is Jack Smith, and second of all, no one's ever heard of him, and everybody's got an opinion. But it's gotten much less attention on the right, where some pundits are saying, well, he's a Democrat because he worked at DOJ in the Clinton-Obama administrations, but he was a career prosecutor, and there's no more sensitive position than running the public integrity section, although you can criticize this or that action. And Trump is calling it a radical left Democrat. No matter what Garland had done, if he was running it, if he has another guy running it, I think it was going to be criticized by the forum.
And I think that this is only, again, we have an institutional trust breakdown in America across so many different ranges, but in particular, we see it when it comes to law enforcement, the Department of Justice and the FBI, where Republicans have gone from being the party of law and order to having major problems with the way that entity is being run.
Right. It was reported widely, Leslie, just briefly, that Trump declared his candidacy so early because he thought that would help him with the Justice Department investigation. But I never could quite figure out the reasoning there, because it wasn't going to sort of derail the probes, and now it has led to special counsel, and now, which everybody knew there had been leaks, and now Trump's unhappy about that.
I don't know why he announced so early. I mean, look, sometimes it benefits people to be first, but sometimes if you have a longer period of time, you have to come up with more cash. And we've seen, millionaires and billionaires pull away from supporting him, pulling their money that they threw at him back in 2016. And, you also have more time for your opponents to get their game up, to be above yours and to dig up more dirt on you. Although I think we kind of know all the dirt on Donald Trump at this point.
Well, let me just jump in here and get you in on the breaking story, which is, I'll start with Ben. What do you think of Elon Musk reinstating Trump after an online poll, and will he come back?
Well, I want to know if Elon's going to make every decision via online poll, because then I'm going to have to pay a lot more attention and set up an alert or something like that.
Something like 15 million people participated.
Exactly. So the mostly people, some bots.
Some bots,
but look, I think that Democrats should very much want to have Donald Trump back on Twitter. I think that it's just beneficial to them. It puts him more in the mindset of never going away, of always being on people's minds. And I think that that's just unquestionably good for Democrats going into the next election.
Leslie, briefly.
Stop, Ben, stop. I agree. I was wondering how many of the 51% in that poll were actually Democrats. Then again, you have a lot of Democrats that left Twitter recently.
You want Trump back on Twitter too? You want Trump back on Twitter too? Why?
Well, it scares me because it can be dangerous when you have lies. But it's entertaining, and it can help. It can really help show, hey guys, you want to go down this path again. But I want to say one thing.
No.
Ben said, is Elon Musk going to make all these decisions? Elon Musk is going to make all the decisions because all his employees have gone. Of course he is.
When we come back, the chief twit. House Republicans are already targeting Hunter Biden, and the press isn't pleased. It took 9 long days after the election for news outlets to project that Republicans will control the House by a handful of seats, instantly transforming the balance of power as Nancy Pelosi steps down as Democratic leader, but holds on to her congressional seat. And she was widely praised, even by some on the right who admire her tenacity. Ben, the media have jumped on House Republicans for this bit of timing. On the very day the House takeover was formally confirmed, an incoming chairman is out there saying he's going to subpoena Hunter Biden. Now, they have every right to investigate, but some pundits say, well, shouldn't you talk first on that first day about your agenda, what you're going to do for the American people?
Well, one of the ramifications of this outcome for Republicans in terms of having the House but not having the Senate is that rather than have a legislative agenda or something along those lines that you could try to put in front of Joe Biden, confront him at the White House, you're going to see all of the House Republicans invested very heavily in this type of oversight activity. I think it's fine for them to talk about this, but one of the lessons that I took away from this election was that there was too little focus on the agenda side of things in terms of solving the problems that Americans actually prioritize, the kitchen table issues, which do not include Hunter Biden. So yes, they can do this, but I think one of the things, and it's important to do, but I think that one of the things that they need to understand as a party is that getting too invested into that as the only thing that people identify with puts you more at a distance from independent voters.
Well, interesting point, Leslie. I mean, look, when it comes to hearings and investigations, the Democratic House did the same thing to Trump, and that's politics. But is it likely the press will portray, not just going after Hunter Biden, but all the other hearings that will be held, as overreach?
Oh, absolutely. And just stop. Ben and I agree on this, because after the election, what we saw is people saying, we don't want conspiracy theories. We don't want investigation after investigation. We want you to focus on kitchen table issues, of which abortion is one for them, for voters that we found in the midterms. And the Republicans are basically saying, OK, we won just the House by a very slim majority, same slim majority Democrats had. Let's go after Hunter Biden. This is not going to work for them. And honestly, this is not in the best interest of the American people. The reason so many Americans will support or applaud divided government is because they keep hoping that Santa Claus is real, and they keep hoping Democrats and Republicans can work together to get things done. We've seen it happen with infrastructure and other things in this and former administrations. Right. It can be done again, but not when you're spending time doing a Hunter Biden. I'm hearing they want to bring Benghazi back for an 18th bipartisan decision that Hillary Clinton did nothing wrong.
Well, Ben, if House Republicans, let's say presumably led by Kevin McCarthy, who may or may not have the votes, can't compromise on anything with the Democrats, which may be hard given their strong right wing, which, you know, sort of has the veto power now, won't there be legitimate media criticism that they couldn't deliver?
I think there'll be some legitimate media criticism if they end up not doing anything when it comes to the agenda items that are very important to their voters, including border in terms of law and order and criminal justice, in terms of trying to make sure that we can get this economy working again. I think all of those are things that they can do. But look, you have to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. And I think that in this case, you know, it would be a slap in the face to a lot of their own supporters if they did not go after a number of these very legitimate issues. I believe have been raised, questions around Hunter Biden's funding, about the sources of money, about potential overlap with the president himself. Those are all legitimate questions that I think that they should investigate. But frankly, I care a lot more about getting to the bottom of a lot of questions related to COVID that we never really got full answers from both this administration and from on the foreign side of things. I care a lot about, you know, investigating and getting to the bottom of that, and that's actually an issue that I think the American day-to-day life than anything that was involving Hunter Biden's potential corruption.
Yeah, look, we've had one-party rule in Washington. This is going to be a sea change. And which brings me to this point, Leslie, when the media were awash in stories about how the Democrats had such a great midterm election, I remember thinking, it doesn't matter if the Republicans take the House by one vote. That gives them control of the floor and committees and blocks the Biden agenda.
True, not necessarily, though. There are areas where there is bipartisan or can be bipartisan agreement, and immigration is one. Look, if Democrats and Republicans get together and pass a legislation to change our current asylum laws, we wouldn't have millions of people standing at our border because they wouldn't have to. That's just one example. Two, you know, it depends on what district you're from and how conservative or moderate you are as a Republican. We've already seen a dozen Republicans vote with Democrats on the latest piece of legislation passed. And three, it just after, you know, claiming you're going to have a red wave and you're going to have a mandate and all this power, it makes them look foolish.
You two can go out for a beer now and talk about the things you agree on. We had bipartisan agreement on some points.